Mr. Speaker. The point that I've raised this afternoon, it's so important, Mr. Speaker, that before we even proceed, Mr. Speaker, you should make a communication that clarifies some of these issues, Mr. Speaker. Because as a house that prides itself as being the upper house, Mr. Speaker, we should be seen to be the ones leading as the National Assembly follows. And Mr. Speaker, I will wish next time Senator Maina speaks, she also understands our standing orders, that if you make an allegation that you are supporting with something that you say was signed and witnessed somewhere, you table it, Mr. Speaker. There is a difference, Mr. Speaker, between signing a coalition agreement in State House and leaving a copy there, and between signing a coalition agreement and you deposit with the registrar of political parties, Mr. Speaker. There is a big difference. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a reminder to all of us, including parties, that if you appoint Senator Veronica Maina as your SG, she should also guide you on what the law is and how to interpret and apply the law.
You are really attracting this point of orders because you are mentioning names and deferring to a member.
Mr. Speaker, you see the problem? When they rise...
Yes, Senator Veronica, what is your point of order?
She can't speak twice on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Twice on a point
I
of order.
raise understanding order 105. Mr. Speaker, I raise understanding order 105. Is the honorable senator entitled, and is he correct to assume and even allude that I did not understand the laws or did not understand, Mr. Speaker, the background within which such agreements and memorandum of understandings are signed? Mr. Speaker, it is public knowledge that all those memorandums are now registered with the Registrar of Political Parties. They are deposited there. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, for the senior counsel to fail to even get copies, and he's a senior counsel, to fail to even secure copies?
Thank you, Senator Veronica.
Mr. Speaker, and then assume that I'm not aware of the facts that are stated.
Okay, thank you.
In those agreements, which I'm a party.
Next is Senator Sekirenku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me also take this opportunity to support the list of the committee of SBC, and I really want to thank the House Business Committee and the leadership of the House for even considering one of my members in the Trade Committee, Honorable Asige, who is a very competent member in my committee, and I want to congratulate her for being added in that list of SBC. Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to talk about the issue that has been discussed in different occasions, particularly in my county, where the utterances of the governor of Nyeri has been a very motive issue in my county and the nation, particularly on the utterances that is talking about the Maasai community, and this has been a very big issue that might bring issues within communities. But I thank the Honorable Governor for apologizing on that statement. And I want to really thank him, because maybe he was not meaning something bad to that community, and for him coming very fast to apologize to the community, I really want to appreciate the same. On the issue of the leadership of the House, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that it is important that you take responsibility. You take responsibility to at least to give a way forward and direction on this matter, because it might really bring a lot of issues, particularly on the committees, again on the operations of this committee, of this House. Otherwise, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this good and great opportunity.
Senator Wamatinga Wahome. Senator Abbas.
Honorable Speaker, I think I'm the only member of UDM who is here now. Yeah. And my party has been attacked, actually. One thing I want to confirm to the House is that UDM has officially signed a coalition agreement with UDA. I want to attest to that. One other thing is, Your Honorable Speaker, is that Asimio is not the majority leader. Honorable Speaker, order. Defend me from the. I am a member of the UDM, my friend, and I represent him. Honorable Speaker, actually, Asimio is no more the majority anymore because NAG left it, Wiper has left, and the ODM has joined the coalition. So how did they become the majority again? How? How did they become the majority? So they are not the majority anymore. They are already joined the broad base, and they are not the majority, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, sir.
Next is Senator Mwaruma Jones Mwashusha.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa hii fursa ili kuunga mkono huu mswada, na naunga mkono Mheshimiwa Spika majina yote ambayo yako katika hii orodha. Tukianza na Ali Roba, Veronica Maina, Wakili Sigei, maseneta wote Mwenye Haji, Faki, Shakila Abdalla, Kristo Asige na kadhalika. Mheshimiwa Spika, na nashukuru kwa uamuzi ya kwamba maseneta wote wanaweza kuwa katika hii kamati na ni vyema kufanya kazi kwa zamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, nafurahia kwa sababu wale walifanya kazi nzuri, na hawa ambao wameweka saizi, Mheshimiwa Spika, pia wataweza kufanya kazi nzuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, niseme kwamba katika kazi zilizo mbele yetu kulikuwa na miswada, kulikuwa na maswali, kulikuwa na kazi nyingi ambayo Mheshimiwa Spika haikuenda. Mheshimiwa Spika, nilinde kutoka kwa kelele nyingi Mheshimiwa Spika upande huu ambayo inanikanganya kidogo. Mheshimiwa Spika, wale maseneta walio mkono wa kulia kwangu kidogo wanajadiliana kwa nguvu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kusema Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba ile kazi ilibakia katika bunge yetu ni kazi nyingi sana. Nikiangalia zile petitions, motions na statements ambazo zilikuwa katika kabla tujaenda likizo, Mheshimiwa Spika, zilikuwa nyingi sana, na zingine za Taita Taveta, za mambo ambayo yanahusiana na mashamba, mambo ambayo yanahusiana na wanyamapori, mambo ambayo yanahusiana na ukosefu wa maji. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna mswada miwili ambayo imetajwa ya muhimu sana na Senator Professor Kamar ya kuhusiana na mambo ya elimu na mwelekeo wa control of budget, ya kwamba hakuna county inaruhusiwa kupeana basari. Na pia kulikuwa na mswada ambao ni wa Senator Karungo Watangwa kuhusu kufanya elimu iwe bure. Mheshimiwa Spika, hiyo ni mswada ya maana sana na ya umuhimu sana ambayo inahitaji Seneti itoe mwelekeo. Mheshimiwa Spika, kila wakati kunapotokea matatizo katika nchi, Seneti imeitwa na kufanya uamuzi na kupewa mwelekeo nchi yetu. Nakumbuka Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati wa COVID-19 kulikuwa na mswada ambao uliletwa bunge na senator ambaye sasa ni governor Sakaja wa mambo ya COVID, na mwelekeo ulipatikana na mwafaka ulipatikana Kenya, na zile sera nyingi za kupigana na COVID zilitokana na huo mswada. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati majenzi wamevamia Kenya, pia nakumbuka kuna mswada uliletwa hapa katika hii Senate na tulijadili na tukapeana Kenya mwafaka na mwelekeo. Na sera nyingi ambazo zilitungwa kupigana na hayo zilitokana na ile bunge. Mheshimiwa Spika, sasa hizi ninapoongea watoto wengi wako nje ya shule, watoto wengi hawaendi shuleni kwa sababu county governments hazipeani bursaries ama ile pesa inayopewa watoto ili waende shuleni. Kwa hivyo tukiweka kipaumbele hiyo mswada miwili ya Professor Kamar na Professor Karungo Watangwa, tukijadili, Kenya pia itapata mwelekeo kama kweli magavana wanaweza peana bursaries ama itangojea mpaka mambo fulani fulani yafanywe na mikataba fulani kati ya serikali ya kitaifa na serikali ya kaunti, hiyo mikataba ifanywe ili watoto ambao wanatoka famili maskini wanaweza pata zile pesa za kwenda shuleni. Mheshimiwa Speaker, pia kuna mswada ule ambao ni muhimu sana wa constitutional amendment ama kubadilisha katiba ambayo imetajwa tayari ya kuweka NGCDF katika katiba, ya kuweka NGAF na Senate Oversight Fund katika katiba. Mheshimiwa Speaker, nafikiri ipawe kipaumbele ili tujue mwelekeo kwa hii mswada. Naunga mkono huu mswada, Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Senator Waume wa Matinga, your intervention. What
yes,
is it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise on order 109 to request the mover to be called to reply. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is that the mood of the House?
Yes, yes, it is. It is. That's the mood of the House.
If that is the mood.
That is the mood of the House.
I will. So, but Senator Chaligay, my friend, sit down. Have your seat. Have your seat. Okay, Senator Karongo, 2 minutes.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe we are supposed to be here up to 6:30. And if everybody was given an opportunity to speak, we should be given equal time, Mr. Speaker, to speak. As I stand here, I stand to support this motion, Mr. Speaker. And the reason why I'm supporting it, Mr. Speaker, at the back of my mind, I do know that anybody or any senator can be a member of this committee. But I feel easy when I look at the membership of this committee as selected, Mr. Speaker. And especially one, Senator Christo Asige, Mr. Speaker. The reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, in the previous session, when this house was visited by bad spirits, what the Zulu would call Tokoloshi, the Tokoloshi skipped Senator Christo Asige, Mr. Speaker. So I believe when she's there, Mr. Speaker, she will stand with the country and with the Senate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I would want to assist you because I do not understand why this House is talking about the minority and the majority. And that issue is not before us, Mr. Speaker. But I want to assist you. If it was to come properly before you for that question, remember Azimio and Kenya Kwanza formed broad-based government. So they are actually both of them the majority, Mr. Speaker. I would want you to understand that. What you should be doing is paving the way and creating the way for the new opposition, that will be coming, Mr. Speaker, when Wamunyoro party will be coming to this house, Mr. Speaker. So what I'm trying to tell you, Mr. Speaker, we do not have a minority, Mr. Speaker. In this house, we do not have a minority. There are only two coalitions.
Senator Eddy, as you raise your point of order, because he has finished, also get your few minutes to contribute to the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg of you that you don't give me 2 minutes because I had come here.
I said take few.
Okay, few is okay. Few is okay. So help me with the clerk so that they don't put light on my, when I'm speaking, there's no few in that light. That light is very serious. Mr. Speaker, because he has finished to speak, I am an orderly person. I'm not going to speak on a point of order when I say that I sat down. But Mr. Speaker, we are degenerating as a house where people are taking this house for granted. Mr. Speaker, you know very well that there's nothing like Wamunyoro party in this house, or even in this parliament. If there is, let the senator for Kiambu resign as a senator, go and vie on his Wamunyoro party, whatever party he wants, and then come back to this house. But he cannot make this house degenerate into some silly jokes that don't make sense. We are in a very serious Senate of Kenya that we must respect and take very seriously. Now, Mr. Speaker, before I start, Mr. Speaker, can you protect me? Can you allow the senator for Kiambu to go to a funeral in Kiambu and shout there, not when I'm speaking here?
Andy, just...
Mr. Speaker, can I continue and be listened to in silence?
Please continue. Continue as I listen to what you're saying.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me cool down first. Let me first of all take my time, Mr. Speaker, that we cannot start speaking today without recognizing, Mr. Speaker, that our colleagues, two of them, one, our own leader, Amason Jeffa Kingi, the honorary speaker of this house, is mourning the death of his father. And number two, yesterday, the former commissioner and the senator of Laikipia, Honorable John Kinyua, just buried the father, Mr. Speaker. I feel very sad because losing a parent pains more than any toothache you've ever felt. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I wasn't expecting point of order when I'm mourning with my brothers who are leaders of this house. I think that is very uncourteous. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge this house to really stand with these two gentlemen, even as they mourn, because they are part of our house, and I didn't want to overlook that. Secondly, Mr. Speaker...
Senator Mandago, what is your point of order?
Really?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think the senator for Migori, ever since he went for a long recess, has forgotten the standing orders of this House. I rise on standing order number 111, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is on the issue of limitation of the debate. Mr. Speaker, you cannot allow other senators to speak for 15 minutes and ask other senators to speak for 2 minutes. And I want to quote standing order number 111, Honorable Speaker, Part 2. A motion for limitation of debate under this standing order may be made without notice. A motion under paragraph 2 shall not be made in the course of the debate, which refers unless it is moved after the adjournment of the debate, and therefore the debate is resumed. Honorable Speaker, I want to speak for 15 minutes.
Senator Mandago, I thought it is Senator Henry who is out of
procedural.
Order. Proceed, Senator Henry.
Okay. Procedural. Nyinyi mmeongea dakika 10. Nyinyi na
Mr. Speaker, thank you once again. Certainly, I wasn't out of order, Mr. Speaker. I think that the Senator Mandago had personal issues with your ruling, and I think that we can sort it when he approach you. I'm not out of order. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say thank you to the team that constituted the previous House Business Committee. I think they have done an excellent job, and they have really made this House work in the last session. And Mr. Speaker, I hope that the proposed new House Business Committee will actually borrow a leaf and glean some morals in terms of discipline, passion, and commitment from that previous committee. And Madam Speaker, I wanted to say that this committee indeed is a very vibrant committee, if it's considered as is, apart, of course, from the question that the senior counsel, Commissioner Mogeni, did raise on the issue of which side of minority and which side of majority do they come from, because it can be unbalanced depending on how you look at it. But that notwithstanding, Madam Speaker, I must say that the people who have been proposed here, the senators who have been proposed in this committee, are men and women of true valor and towering spirit to work. Of course, starting with our own Senator Crystal Asige. Madam Speaker, we know the zeal that Senator Crystal Asige brings into this House, and we know the commitment that she brings. And I really am excited to see in this committee. Madam Speaker, if you also look at my own chair of Finance and Budget, indeed, Ali Roba, the senator from Mandera, is a very industrious but also very diligent senator in this House who has served really well as matters of finance and budget. And Madam Speaker, I don't want to mention all of them because of pressure of time. I'm keen that all senators get equal time, but I do support and endorse this committee regardless of the contention that we still have on the majority versus minority side based on the court. But Madam Speaker, allow me to request that I know that all the senators who came before me have emphasized the urgency and the need to focus on legislative pieces that we must bring to this House. But I wanted to urge us that this House does not only look at legislative work. We are indeed a House of serious oversight, oversighting we're oversighting 47 executives. And unlike the National Assembly, that critically speaking, oversights one executive in this country, Madam Speaker. And I wanted to urge the committee that apart from prioritizing the bills that have been mentioned here, and I hope that even my bill for creative economy that will be able to support a number of young people in this country and open up government support and resources to creatives in this country, that Senator Crystal Asige has also worked on when we were with her in the Committee of Trade, where I had put this to make a case for business viability and commercial viability for creatives. Apart from those bills, Madam Speaker, I want to really urge this House that the role of oversight is a critical one. And there are a number of reports from respective committees that have come to this committee, House Business Committee, that have not been dealt with, Madam Speaker. And some of them are so critical that yesterday, Madam Speaker, we spent our time in Migori County with Finance and Budget, which you are going to receive their report from where we came from in Migori. And Madam Speaker, we realize a lot of leakages in government resources and county resources, to the extent that, Madam Speaker, the issue of voiding that is happening in this country by governors, that the pending bills that we have seen rising from voiding payments that are supposed to go to contractors, Madam Speaker, is a problem that we are dealing with, not only in Finance and Budget Committee, but even in CPIC, where I sit, Madam Speaker, we have dealt with serious issues of pending bills, including over 80 billion, Madam Speaker, that is owed to different pension funds by different counties. I don't think that legislative pieces can go above those oversight issues. Madam Speaker, yesterday when we were in Migori County, we realized something that is very sad. The governor showed us, and this report will come to the House, the governor insisted to us that he had paid 1.1 billion in the last 1 year. And Madam Speaker, that county has got 1.7 billion worth of pending bills. When we reached out to COB, because there's no way a governor would pay any money without requesting money from the COB. When we asked the COB how much of worth of pending bills has the governor been able to do requisition for in the last 1 year, we got that it was 356 million. Meaning that the governor was telling the committee that 800 million worth of pending bills, the governor either paid from his own pocket or did not requisition from the COB, Madam Speaker. And his officer had the audacity of facing the committee, chaired by the able former majority whip, Senator Boni Aluale. He had the audacity of facing Boni Aluale and telling him that there is something called direct invoicing. Direct invoicing, Madam Speaker, is where you have sent invoice to COB for suppliers, and they have given you money to go and pay those suppliers. Then when you get to IFMIS, you do another invoicing. You do another invoicing. Madam Speaker, this committee must prioritize those reports so that for once and for all, we must deal with the issue of direct invoicing, Madam Speaker, because that is where billions of money are being wasted by governors, Madam Speaker, to the extent that, Madam Speaker, this last weekend, you have seen the arrogance of governors who have taken so much money that we saw in Kakamega, almost 10 people dying in a funeral because governors have become a point that they have taken so much money from the public coffers that they are gagging senators that they cannot oversight with goons, so that anybody who speaks against any governor, the next thing you hear, they have hired goons, they are fighting senators. Madam Speaker, we are out from the Finance and Budget Committee, and I'm out as a senator, that we are going to confront these governors regardless of the money that they have in this country. We cannot have a country, Madam Speaker, that people loot from public property, and people loot from public projects, and people loot from public coffers, and then they use the same amount of money to go and confuse our people to start fighting among themselves. The people they are giving 500 shillings to fight us who are oversighting and to abuse us on Facebook, Madam Speaker, and social media, the same people, when you go to their villages, there is no water. When you go to their villages, people are dying out of Panadol when they have got very good medical care, Madam Speaker. So I want to urge this committee to go and strongly work on those reports by PAC, by Finance and Budget, by CPIC, and this committee must bring those reports to this house so that if there is need to go to somewhere like Migori County, where we cannot track a number of projects, and I can tell you, Madam Speaker, I have data, and those reports are with the committee. We need to debate those reports in this house and make sure that we can even form special committees together with our partners. We have got very strong partners in this house. We have got the EACC, we have got the Auditor General, we have got the IG of Police, we have got the COB. Let all these partners go to Migori and look at these projects, and go to Isiolo and look at the projects that have been cleared in billions, and go to Muranga and look at those projects. Go to Kisii, look at those projects. Go to Mombasa, look at those projects. Because if we don't do that, Madam Speaker, and tighten the issue of oversight in this country, Madam Speaker, we are facing demagogues and hegemons in names of governors who have become comfortable that they can loot public property and public money, and senators will do nothing. The reports of the Senate are the most critical things that we must work on. Madam Speaker, as I finish, there is the question that has come here, Madam Speaker, and I think that I want to urge your seat, Madam Speaker, that don't take it lightly. Just go, retreat, and be able to make a proper pronouncement on the judgment that was shared by the court, Madam Speaker. Because when you look at the Constitution, Madam Speaker, on the issue of presiding in Parliament, that gives you the power to preside over us, Article 107 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, it says that in a joint session of Parliament, the Speaker of the National Assembly shall preside over that joint session. Then the Speaker of the Senate shall deputize the Speaker of the National Assembly. When you go further to 108, Article 108, where now it defines party and coalition of parties that shall come as majority or minority, it only gives that power and that designation to the National Assembly. So, Madam Speaker, we must seek for an interpretation, whether from your chair or from the courts, of what does Article 108 and Article 107 mean for this house. Because if we take it lightly that this is a drama and a joke that the former minority side is doing to the former majority side, then we are not serving the nation. It is my understanding and my view of those two articles that the moment National Assembly Speaker has pronounced himself or herself, given the context of Article 107, that the majority party or the majority coalition is one side, then that applies to the Senate. And the reason I'm saying this, Madam Speaker, is because election day is when those majority and minority parties are determined. There is no any other election after we are seated in this house. And therefore, this question of some post-election coalitions that have come here and there, some of them we haven't seen any documentation to their effect. I want to urge you, Madam Speaker, that you can be able to help us be able to criticize, question, interrogate, engage with court orders. I saw Madam Gloria and Senator, the senator who was nominated Senator Gloria, Madam Speaker, contributing in this House. Yet, Madam Speaker, there was a court order that came on the basis of decisions that were made by this House. It was a decision that was made by this House that Senator Gloria was suspended for 6 months. I understand that maybe there's a potential that Senator Gloria might have gone and appealed against that court order. But it needs to be communicated to the House, Madam Speaker. If it's not communicated, then she's a stranger in the House, Madam Speaker. When the Speaker sits and then ignores those court orders, ignores a stranger being in the House without communicating to us, how are we running the House? These are the issues that I hope that the House Business Committee will look at and let us engage with these court matters, and not only engage with them on time so that we can be able to interpret and engage with these court orders. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I'm looking forward to a very vibrant session this session, and I hope that we'll make our country better by working together, agreeing to disagree for the purpose of moving Kenya forward. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are you supporting the motion, or
I said I support the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Oburu Odinga is the next.
These are the names, eh? You can read them.
She has given me. Oh, she's given me. Asante, asante. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, first and foremost, I stand to support this motion. The reason I support this motion, Madam Speaker, is because of the integrity of the membership. The people who have been elected here, some of them are very experienced, like Ibrahim Roba. If you look at Roba, has been a governor, he has been MP, and he has a lot of experience. And all of them, you look at you, Madam Speaker, your background and your experience in politics, having been a Secretary General of the ruling party, and so on. Madam, you are fit to guide us. And I don't want to describe every member, but Madam Speaker, I support this motion and support the membership which has been suggested. But they have an onerous task that this committee which is being proposed here has an onerous task to move our things forward. Madam Speaker, I'm quite concerned that the National Assembly has become a graveyard for legislation which is passed here in the Senate, and they go there and they find a slaughterhouse there, and they die there. Madam Speaker, I don't know whether fighting them will be the solution, but I would have suggested, Madam Speaker, that when you are elected to this onerous position of the House Business Committee, you should develop some relationship with the National Assembly. Help us to create an amicable atmosphere where our motions and our legislation does not stand as cattle to be slaughtered in the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, I hope that this committee which is being given this task will this time make sure that one of our most important functions, which is to make legislation, and Madam Speaker, I've been in this parliament for a long time. I'm very, very pleased with the pace at which Senate is processing legislation. The Senate is doing its work, and it is doing it very well. There is quite a lot of legislation, very important for the country, which are passed here, but they never see the light of the day. They are killed at the National Assembly. And I hope, Madam Speaker, this will be taken seriously and something will be done about it. And Madam Speaker, secondly, I don't want to comment much because when I came in here, I was not whipped by my whip. He did not tell me that we are taking over the leadership on this side. So I went and, and sat on the other side. But Madam Speaker, what I can say on this is that if you see that something is happening in the National Assembly, that thing directly applies to the Senate. Because, Madam Speaker, if all of us know that the ruling about the leadership in the Assembly is exactly the same as ours here. So I don't know whether we want to wait also for the Senate to go to court and get a similar ruling, or ukiona mwenzie akinyolewa, we chako pia ukitie maji. Yes. So that we don't waste a lot of time again going to court. Let us move, because this country is ours all, and what we want to do is to move things on oversight. We are doing the same job. Whether you are in minority or in majority, you are supposed to do oversight. You are not supposed to be defending the executive when they go wrong. Everybody is supposed to be on the same page, and when the government does something which needs support, it is supported by everybody. But when they do something which requires criticism and openness in speaking, everybody is supposed to speak the same. There should be no division in that matter, because our role of oversight is the same. They don't say that it is the minority or the majority who will do the oversight on the government. There is no such a line that majority or minority are the ones who are supposed to do oversight. It is the whole Senate, it is the whole Parliament. It is our job to do oversight on the executive. So, Madam Speaker, I hope that this matter will be resolved, because what is happening there in the National Assembly is exactly happening. If the court said the party leadership, our Speaker is also a leader of a political party. But anyway, we are not discussing our Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I withdraw that one. But I want to say, Madam Speaker,
thank you for withdrawing. That is the correct thing to do.
I want to conclude by saying that I support this motion, and I want to urge our people who have been appointed there to work well and create an ambience, an amicable relationship with the other house, so that we find an amicable way. They also need us, because they now want they want us to support them in CDF, which has been declared unconstitutional. Let us support them, but also get something from them. If it is killed in courts, it is not us. Let us get ours, which is legitimate, but let us support theirs, which is illegitimate. Let it be killed elsewhere, not by us, so that we can, it is give and take. It should be give and take. And I hope our people will do the necessary diplomacy to make sure that we gain from some of these positions. They require us as much as we require them. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Senator Kisang. Secretariat, clerk, please help the senator with the mic. Put his mic on, please. You can move to the dispatch.
Good. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the members who have been selected to serve in this particular very important committee. That's why you've seen today, Madam Speaker, we don't have anything else to do until this particular committee is approved, so that they can sit down and prepare work for us to do in the next few days. Madam Speaker, I know in the last 3 sessions, we've had issues, especially in terms of quorum, when it comes to division, Madam Speaker. So I'm urging this particular committee to give guidance and also advise members that we can agree that every Wednesday afternoon or alternate Wednesdays is a division sitting, so that members know from the word go. You don't have to be whipped by anybody. You know, Wednesday afternoon is division time, so that we can dispose most of the bills that have been on the queue for long on the division, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's also important for the whips to engage the members, tell the members when they have very important businesses are coming to the House, so that members can whip themselves and come to the House during those particular divisions, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I know we had a retreat in Naivasha and we engaged, including the 4th formula that is coming up in the course of this year, Madam Speaker, and we spoke and said there are several counties that are just paying salaries, Madam Speaker, and we need to see how we can help them so that they can get additional resources, so that they can do some meaningful developments in the county, Madam Speaker. Because if you see, like the 10 I said, Madam Speaker, basically apart from paying salaries, they are building ECDs and buying medicine, but there is nothing meaningful that are happening in those particular counties. And we'll be lobbying members in this House so that, you know, we leave our emotions, so that we ensure that the stability fund of about 12.5 billion, Madam Speaker, is allocated by Treasury, so that eventually within 2-3 years, the other counties will get enough resources to do something that can be seen, so that we know devolution is working for all of us, not just for the big boys, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to touch on what our colleagues have said. You know, at least, you know, this is the first day, and we've been out for the last maybe 60, 70 days, Madam Speaker. And let the former SMEO, because as far as I know, Madam Speaker, there is no SMEO. Now Kenya moved out of SMEO, Madam Speaker. It's now called BLP. Waiba is out of SMEO. ODM basically is part of us now. We are in a broad-based government, Madam Speaker. So let our colleague enjoy maybe the honeymoon for today to come to this side. So I believe by tomorrow they should be able to move to their side, because they have enjoyed the half-a-day honeymoon that they've had this afternoon, Madam Speaker, because I don't think they are serious by coming this side. You know, they want to enjoy, and at least appear tonight in the news that the former SMEO, which is not there now, have moved to the majority side. Madam Speaker, I want to ask, it's only that Sifuna is not here, it is simple maths. Honorable Mkeni said, after election, UDA had 22 senators, and then we had 2 more from our sister, Fort Kenya, and another one. They became 24. And then after nomination, we're still the majority. If you see your brother getting a second wife, it doesn't mean that you have a second wife. So I don't know why they are saying, because Asmio was declared as the majority in National Assembly, by extension, the senior brother also should have another wife. So I don't think that is true, Madam Speaker. That's just a joke that these guys are, you know, simple maths. 1 + 1 is 2. It's not 3, Madam Speaker. So they need to know that. Finally, Madam Speaker, we want to urge this particular committee, and especially the majority leader, Senator Aaron Cheriot, and minority leader, Matzayo, to work very closely with the leadership of National Assembly so that they can help to give priority businesses that come from Senate in National Assembly, Madam Speaker, because that is where our business is stalled in National Assembly. They don't give priority. And you know, the reason why we also give priority to business from National Assembly, it's because most of the time the money bills originate from National Assembly. When they come to Senate, we give priority. And most of them also are government businesses that may be setting up institutions. So that's why we give priority. But it is important that we implore upon them to give priority so that we work closely. And finally, Madam Speaker, is because of the constitutional amendment that is in the hoping, Madam Speaker, so that we entrench national government development, CDF, and Oversight Fund and Gov Fund, Madam Speaker, is very important. I was an MP for Marakwet West for 10 years, and I want to tell you, Madam Speaker, CDF works, CDF helps. There are many people who have gone to school, they have cleared the university, and they're in employment because of bursary from CDF, Madam Speaker, and most classrooms, even school buses, have been bought and built using CDF, and our people have stopped Arambes, fundraisers for our schools because of CDF. So that particular fund, Honorable Speaker, is very important. And now the Senate Oversight Fund is very important, Madam Speaker, to help us to move around our counties and check that the governors are implementing projects, and the projects, our people are getting value for money from those particular projects, Madam Speaker. And I want to give notice, my county, that in the course of this month of February and March, I'll be going around to check what they've done and to ensure that the people of Elgeyo-Marakwet County get value for money from the resources that we send from this house, Madam Speaker. Thank you. I support.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Honorable Senators, as I proceed to give to the next senator, I want to request, due to the time constraints and the House being queried, I want to request the senators, though I won't limit your time, you limit yourself so that we can accommodate as many who are remaining. There are not too many remaining, so please take that precaution on how you use your time. Senator Onyonka.
Thank you.
Senator Cheradige, you want to believe you're on that side?
Thank you. Honorable Senator Cherargei. No. I'm just informing you.
Senator
I'm informing you that when you are in the minority, Senator, that's how it happens.
Order, Senator Cheradige. Senator Cheradige, order, Senator Cheradige. First of all, Senator Cheradige, are you listening? Senator Cheradige, the chair is speaking now.
Excuse me.
Senator Eddy, resume your seat.
Excuse me.
Senator Cheradige, I am speaking now as the chair. First, you did not have the platform because the chair had not granted you an opportunity to speak. So raising your voice against Senator Onyonka will be out of order. So let's have Senator Onyonka proceed. There is no ruling by the Speaker on which side of the House you should be seated. You invited yourself to sit on the minority side.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We proceed now.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I wanted to say that my brother Cherargei, I welcome you to the minority side. That is how we usually feel. We are extremely uncomfortable sometimes, but now you can feel how we feel. Madam Speaker, I would like to continue by saying that...
Let Senator Onyonka be heard in silence. I have given directions, Senator. It will be taken after. Senator Cheradige, it will be taken after. Senator Cheradige, I've given directions. Proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to say that Mr. Cherargei, as his, he fears what I might say.
I caution you to be orderly.
But you are a brave man. Like I saw today, you spoke brilliantly about Sakaja. Allow me to also say something about Sakaja.
Senator Onyonka, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Cherargei, with all due respect, please allow me to proceed.
I cautioned you the first time. You are getting out of order.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam
Senator
Speaker.
Onyonka,
I wanted to thank everybody in this House who, for the last 1 year, has been in this House deliberating and discussing the critical issues. I'm happy that most of our members have come back to this House and they're well. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, what I wanted to mention to my colleagues here, and in this case, I am not going to indulge myself on the legalese of this issue that has been discussed here, but I want to give a very small story. Madam Speaker, in 2007, when we ran for elections, if Kenyans can remember, the House was actually in a stalemate. President Kibaki had 100 members of parliament, and the ODM side had 100 members of parliament. During that time, the only outside vote, if I can use that in quotes, was my vote, which was under a party called PDP. We had actually signed a pre-election agreement with ODM, and that is the reason why my vote was accepted. How this will be interpreted as we move along, I don't want to engage it, but I can tell you, Madam Speaker, it feels so sweet to be in the majority side. Number two, it is true that our job is to oversight. And this year, I want to say, Madam Speaker, that I personally have learned a lot. I have visited different parts of Kenya, and I've seen a lot. I want to request this to my colleagues in this House, and especially the Speaker and his team and the leadership. Many Kenyans want this House to travel outside Nairobi. Many Kenyans, everywhere we've been. Yesterday we were in Migori, Madam Speaker. You should see the excitement of the public, to see the Hansard officers, the clerks, to see how we interrogating the reports of the Auditor General, Control of Budget. I mean, it's such a beautiful and wonderful experience on devolution that we were even engaged with members of the County Assembly of Migori. They were really averse and knowledgeable with the issues affecting their community. I really want to beg my colleagues that let us change the style. Madam Speaker, I hope I will come and have a chat with you or the substantive speaker that we can actually hold these hearings with you as the speaker sitting in this House, and yet we, when we travel out of here, we can be on Zoom and we can continue debating on the matters which have come public good or matters which are to do with whatever that we are discussing in this House, so that we can visit the areas we have not visited. I know we have gone to Isiolo, we've gone to Mandera, we've gone to Nakuru, we've gone to Kisumu. There was a time we went to Turkana, and when you visit these areas, you see what the public expectation is. Madam Speaker, I would also like to see that it was good to be in Naivasha because we are beginning to discuss the issues that matter. And I would like to state it here because many of our colleagues keep on hiding this thing behind their backs. Yes, you want to legalize CDF, but yes, you must legalize the Oversight Fund for senators. Yes, you want to legalize the NGAF and Women Fund. Yes, you must legalize the Ward Fund, and you must give members of the County Assembly money for oversight. That is the way we are going to. And also, Madam Speaker, since the law says that the role of a member of parliament is to oversight, but you have given him the role of implementation, the Senate also must be given the role of implementation. The reason is, don't tell me that it's only me as a senator who can oversight the governor, but the member of parliament has nobody to oversight him because he's now the implementing officer. The NGAF money is being utilized for implementation of projects. Because the reality, Madam Speaker, is this. Many people think that we need that money for whatever. No. We go to the village. We were all elected. For example, Madam Speaker, I'm elected with the governor of Kisii and the women rep of Kisii. The governor has money, which he's using to do projects in the county government. The women rep has money, which she's using at the county government. Why am I not having the money as a senator? We must interrogate these issues, and we must be honest, so that if we say get rid of CDF, give members of parliament money for oversighting projects which are done by the national government. If you want to keep the senators, give us oversight funds, which will make us oversight the governors. Figure out how you are going to organize oversighting by the women rep, because it can either be done by the member of parliament or by the senator. These are the issues that many of us have been raising about why our system is broken. The reason why we say that our system is broken is that we have too many sections, and that's why Kenyans are actually very uncomfortable, allowing more money to either be given to senators or even members of the MPs or members of the county assembly or women reps. Why? Kenyans do not want too many of our hands on this public money. Because we are irresponsible, we are unable to manage it, we are doing crazy things with it. If you see some of the money that is at the county governments, Madam Speaker, you'll be shocked. But even when it looks like it is nearly a matter that we can give up on, I want to encourage my colleagues in this House, let us make sure that we participate and make sure that our country becomes better. Let us persuade our governors that we are not, in our oversight, like I heard somebody say, oh, senators are trying so hard to become governor. Madam Speaker, like me, I wouldn't care to be a governor, by the way. Some of us don't care. Some of us just want to serve the public well, make sure that, if anything, we at least leave some good name behind. And finally, I would like to say, I heard my brother Eddie talking about Gloria Oroba. I believe that matter, Brother Eddie, was sorted out, and don't make Madam Oroba become very upset and obtuse, because she's in this House legitimately, and I believe that she continue doing a good job. Madam Speaker, I'd like to say I support the motion, and I hope that my colleagues and brothers in this House, whatever that happens, whatever interpretation that happens, I would like to persuade all of us here, and this is my experience as a long-time serving member of Parliament and indeed now in the Senate. At the end of all this, we are still brothers and sisters in this republic. We don't have any other country to go to. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Cherargei. Patience always pays. And you must learn to be patient when other senators are also submitting. Proceed.
Madam Speaker, as the senator of this House, I also have a role to guide the House sometimes when there's some lapses as per the standing order and the Constitution. Madam Speaker, let me begin by saying I want to support the House Business Committee membership. Although the majority leader, my simple advice to him is at least in future to rotate membership. I saw you have brought in Crystal Asige, brought in Shagila Abdallah. Is it Senator, nominated Senator from Lamu? I think so. And a number of colleagues. I think in future, majority leaders, so that people can learn, at least let us have rotational way of doing membership so that we can, except, no. Madam Speaker, you need to protect me from the majority leader. I was protecting him a few minutes ago. Madam Speaker, I was protecting majority leader.
Until you started reprimanding him.
No, I was just saying as a way of learning, Madam Speaker, and I was protecting majority leader when he was under Siege a few minutes ago. But just was my advice, because me and majority leader have been here for some time, and Senator Kajwang, we thought, we have seen, I think in the last session, even he told us, and I remember, I'm using majority leader's words. When we were forming impeachment committees in the last session, he insisted for rotational. So I was just saying, in future, we see how we can do. I don't doubt your capacity, Madam Speaker. I know you have all the time in the world after you left being SG. I know you have the requisite experience, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I have no doubt alongside your colleagues. My only plea to you is that let us prioritize the business of the Senate, number one. Number two, Madam Speaker, let us also be factual. We have raised, even in the running of this House, on many occasions, even issues of comfortability. I'm happy you have changed even cameras in the House, which moves the quality of transmission has improved. I can see there is many renovations and construction in the House. New books have been bought. I know the Commission might want to spend money before the close of financial year, but let us prioritize what is. But I wish these renovations that are doing around Parliament, including funny booths, we should have diverted that money for us to do county visits and do oversight. I saw majority leader alone trying to oversight Kericho County Referral Hospital. I wish it was the Senate Committee of Health alongside him, Senator Mandoga and the team, and Senator Cheruya, the area senator, oversighting. We should divert the money, even this Senate Mashinani, Senate Majority Leader, we can decide that in a quarterly session, we divide Senate into like 10, then visit at least every county using the resources, Madam Speaker, so that we have more impact, so that people see that we are following. Because the question, Madam Speaker, I was in Meru, I was in Mandera, I was in Nandi, I was in Muranga, and the question people are asking us, yes, you send money to Mashinani, but why don't you follow up and see if it is working? And I think that's the question all of us, the senators here, are. Even the senator of Wajir, the members would really want the public that are there, even Senator Kisumu, my neighbor. Madam Speaker, I think we need to be creative and innovative. Let us do away with Senate Mashinani. Let us break away in 10 groups. Allow this weekend, 2 committees can go to some regions so that we can divide. And I hope the Majority Leader will take it up with the House leadership and the House Business Committee, Senate. But all in belief, now the final one, Madam Speaker, I want to appeal to the Senate Business Committee so that I only have 2 issues. I want to appeal to the Senate Business Committee to also be alive to what is happening. You know, if we have a problem in the country, the way we had State of the Nation, as the Senate Business Committee where you sit, be alive. If a matter happens in the morning and you are sitting in the midday and the member wants to bring it out in the afternoon, Madam Speaker, our standing orders have gathered for it. We don't need to be morticians. Sometimes we need to be proactive, Madam Speaker. We take action even before we don't need, and I think the Senate Business Committee has risen up to the occasion on several occasions. On our bills, motions, statements, Madam Speaker, I don't know what we will do. My only appeal, I don't know how we'll improve processing of statements, motions, petitions. And it has become a problem. Even the Public Investment Committee and County Public Accounts, we have so many reports. Members always come to our committees and ask us, what are you doing about particular recommendations that you made? I want to appeal that, Madam Speaker, we need to sit as a House and see how we can process statements, petitions, and motions and become creative. I'm happy, Madam Speaker, and I want, through Senate Business Committee and House leadership, to appeal to the chairs of the committees and committees. Please don't discuss a member's motion, statement, or bill without their involvement. It is collegiality that you are reading today, Madam Speaker. Why would you discuss my motion and bill like my bill? I received the feedback from your committee in social media when I was taking chai and mandazi, Madam Speaker, and Madondo somewhere in Kilimani, Madam Speaker. So please, it is important for collegiality and respect. Let us engage the members who brought that matter before the House. Finally, Madam Speaker, on the issue that is live, Madam Speaker, I want to appeal. You know, Madam Speaker, I saw our friends who are doing content creators. I know they came with all this drama and machismo for content creation for TikTok and to trend in Twitter and Facebook. Madam Speaker, if you read, you know, Madam Speaker, you know, the people are saying we are senior lawyers, they are senior, but also fools get old. Madam Speaker, the reading of the ruling of the court, because I've read, is directed to National Assembly. To infringe that the Senate is involved is a wrong premise. Because the Constitution divided the roles of the houses, National Assembly and the Senate, Madam Speaker. Even when you read the ruling, it says the National, and involves the Speaker of the National Assembly, Senator Speaker Moses Wetangula. If it is a party leader and is the Speaker, it is the business of the National Assembly. We don't have. And the courts did not say we can invite ourselves to the table on determining the court order. Madam Speaker, let us be honest when we engage in terms of reading the law. When you look under Article 262, the Constitution envisages a purposeful interpretation of the law involving court orders, Madam Speaker. So these things that our brothers from the minority side are busy sitting on the seats, the goodness with the Senate is there is free sitting. It will not just make news today. Content creation, I've seen some of them, I've already posted, Madam Speaker. Somebody who just walked out, I saw a shower at TikTok and other places. The point I'm trying to make, let us be honest with us. In fact, as we talk, and Majority Leader will support me on this, UDM did a post-coalition agreement as per Political Parties Act. Under Political Parties and Election Act, the law of Kenya allows for both pre- and post-coalition agreements. UDA signed with UDM. In fact, Casimiro is no longer there. DAP walked away with only one MP, some content creator called Kasalasia. There is some funny governor who is busy insulting anybody and everybody that moves, just like our Chinese eat everything that moves. Madam Speaker, when you talk about NAC doesn't even have a single MCA. Does he have Nyumba Kumi? Something like that. So they have worked out of Azimio. Who else has remained in Azimio? Wiper, that the deputy minority, in fact, he should be removed from his seat. Because Wiper is no longer part of Azimio, Madam Speaker. So we must be honest. If we want to interpret this constitution, we must interpret this constitution for the betterment of this country. Let us not interpret constitution for us to become politically convenient or relevant or to be celebrated, Madam Speaker. Let us allow the constitution to speak and be heard. That court order that was directed. And Madam Speaker, one funny thing these people are not telling you, the colleague senator, sorry, they are not telling you that the courts did not determine who is the minority and majority. As things stands now, the minority, which is ODM and others, they are the minority. Because Azimio has disintegrated. In fact, the UDA is becoming majority because of the broad-based engagement with other political actors, Madam Speaker. So I want to appeal, Madam Speaker, since the court order did not direct, the senator cannot be there. The Senate, as the former chairman of JLAC Emeritus, Madam Speaker, there is no court order against the minority or majority side on the Senate, number one. Number two, even if today the court order that came out has been authenticated by revenge, I want to challenge Justice Martha Koome and the judiciary to also be proactive. They don't need to be morticians. They decide something that is long dead and gone. The DNA cannot be found and determined, Madam Speaker. So I want to ask our members in the National Assembly and the Senate, we are properly constituted and we are the majority side, Madam Speaker. Let us allow this week. You remember, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, when we were electing the Speaker, the minority side worked out. We did elect the Speaker. What happened? They came back. So let's allow them, majority leader, 1 or 2 weeks. Let's allow them to sit on seats, do content creation, post. When the heat is down, when the chips are down, they'll come back to their senses and ensure, Madam Speaker. So I want to appeal to the nation. There is nothing to worry from us legal scholars. That court order is only good for academic discourse, for morning television interviews and evening, among others, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, finally, is to appeal to the House. I don't know, my chair of CPAC and the Senate Minority Leader is here. Please, as per the ruling of the court, that most of the county public accounts reports and CPIC should be considered by March. I want to appeal that we need to move faster so that we can ensure we don't offend the timeline that has been set by the law. Madam Speaker, with those very many remarks, allow me to leave it there and to thank you and to say that I support the formation of Senate Business Committee so that from tomorrow we can have a business. And it's good to see Senator Mandago. Congratulations. You are now a serious man in our community. You can sit when a girl is being betrothed, because at least your son went through rite of passage. I know people like Aaron still have a long way to go. Our condolences to the Speaker, Madam Speaker. Also condolences to Senator Kinyua for losing his beloved dad. We pray and stand with. Some of us could not come, Madam Speaker, because of what you saw. If you saw people are saying people are working without underwear, we could not sit in such a forum, Madam Speaker. So when funerals are funerals, let's allow them to be. When politics, let's go to rallies. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kajwang.
Madam Speaker, I've sat here with typical patience. I've been in this House for 10 years, and today I'm the last to speak, even though I was in the House at 2:30. I think even speakers need to put in some algorithm, because those of us who've been around sometimes can benefit the House out of our experience. And Madam Speaker, I didn't sit here to score political points or to speak politics. I took time to encourage the SBC and the motion of which I support and the members that have been proposed, just to encourage them. We were in Naivasha just last week to reflect on the performance of the Senate and its midterm assessment. The time from election to today is equal to the time from today to the next election. And we must ask ourselves whether we have achieved anything significant. We have only 1 year. And as you can see, Madam Speaker, the political drums have started sounding. And it might be very difficult for us to achieve much in the remaining period. But I took my time to put it on record that when we were in Naivasha, and unfortunately by the time we were making the resolutions, perhaps if someone had called for the quorum bell, that meeting would have been dissolved, because we were very few of us. I want it to be on record, and I want to put it to the public, that there are 3 very significant issues that the Senate discussed, which were supposed to be brought to the SBC for fast tracking. With regards to the formula for allocation of revenue, we resolved that the Senate will not look at a situation where any county gets less than what it has been getting. Madam Speaker, when it came to reporting of what we did in Naivasha, perhaps issues that happened during the cocktail were more evident and more prominent than issues that happened during the working meetings. We must give that assurance, and there was a proposal that the SBC should process and find a bipartisan team away from the Finance and Budget Committee to process the proposals from the Commission on Revenue Allocation. The second thing we resolved, which SBC should consider, and we agreed that a motion was to come to this House, was giving effect to Article 249(3), which requires Parliament collectively, being the Senate at the National Assembly, to be involved in provision of adequate budgets to independent offices and constitutional commissions. Madam Speaker, that matter does not need a constitutional amendment. It does not need an advisory opinion. It does not need interpretation by the courts of law. What we need to do, because the National Treasury and the entities that bring budgets to Parliament have chosen to take them to the National Assembly, is for us to resolve and for us to generate a certificate under the hand of the clerk of the Senate to the National Treasury and to the Executive, so that we compel them to bring the budgets of constitutional commissions to the Senate as required under Article 249(3). And I hope that this initiative is not going to die in the hands of this SBC. Madam Speaker, ordinarily, when you have a motion on constitution of a committee, the members who are supposed to be part of that committee ought to be in the House, so that they can take note of the mandate that the Senate is giving to them. And I do hope that they are following online, because otherwise it would be very untidy for us to say these things and to support the establishment of a committee when those members themselves are not here. Madam Speaker, allow me to wade into the issue of Article 108, and I wish Senator Sifuna was here. I agree with Senator Sifuna that Article 108 only talks about the minority and majority leadership of the National Assembly. And Madam Speaker, this is where history sometimes is important. Every time we had a problem with the other house, many a times, the leader of majority in that house, who now happens to be a member of the cabinet, that is the Honorable Aden Duale, kept reminding us that the majority leader and minority leader of the Senate is a useless and non-existent position. Correct. He said that those positions are unconstitutional. And in his reading of the Constitution, the plain reading of Article 108 only provides for the leader of majority and minority being drawn from the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, we have known of this since this Senate was established. And that is why, in the year 2014-2015, this Senate, by resolution, agreed to look at the Constitution and address the gaps that made or that gave the Senate the short end of the stick. That committee was chaired by Kipchumba Murkomen, and I believe he was deputy leader, or he was leader of majority, if not deputy leader of majority. It was a bipartisan committee. It was vice-chaired by Senator Mutula Kilonzo. Madam Speaker, that is what this House should do. Not descend into drama that makes us appear as if we are a branch of the National Assembly. I will disagree with an interpretation that whatever decision is made at the National Assembly applies to the Senate. That will make us subordinate to the National Assembly. And that is a conversation we should have. What are the provisions in the Constitution that left gaps, that if interpreted on the face of it, puts the Senate at a disadvantage? The Honorable Aden Duale went ahead and said that even the vehicles and privileges that the majority and minority leaders of the Senate are enjoying are unconstitutional. And he threatened that he was going to go to the Parliamentary Service Commission to have those benefits withdrawn. And Madam Speaker, you notice, even when you go for public functions, even presidential events, you will find that the leader of minority and majority in the National Assembly is given greater prominence than the leader of the Senate. In fact, I want to congratulate Aaron Cheriot that at least he has managed to make his presence felt. But otherwise, if you are dealing with people who are just reading the Constitution the way it is, the letter and not the spirit, even the leader of majority of the Senate or minority of the Senate would not be given space and will not be considered when it came to matters of protocol. If we believe in bicameralism, this House must stand and must protect and must defend its interests. I know that there are overriding political considerations. We come from political coalitions. But I will not be the one to dismantle the superior position of the Senate for political purposes and for political bonga points. If we want, as a Senate, to be in a position where we are taken seriously, let us do the things we said in Naivasha. And we mandated the Honorable Senator for Nyamira, Senator Omogeni. He has a constitutional amendment proposal. We said that we are going to prioritize that constitutional amendment proposal. And I hope that he has addressed the issue of Article 108. Because Article 108, I do not think that it was deliberate on the part of the drafters of the Constitution to leave the Senate out when it came to definition of leadership of the houses. Madam Speaker, even if it were ruled that the party that is not in government is a majority, the heavens will not fall. In the United States of America, President Obama rarely had a majority. Madam Speaker, if you recall history, I think it is said he had a majority for about 79 days. When Senator Kennedy died, unfortunately, he lost that majority. He had to go lobby Congress every time he wanted to pass a bill, be it Obamacare, whatever kind of the radical proposals that he had. And Madam Speaker, I would be happy if we're in that situation, because we'll be running away from the tyranny of numbers, and the executive would now be compelled to come to Parliament and to convince Parliament to take a position and a vote on a matter. It is not the end of the world. It is not overturning the government. It is not kicking the government or the executive out of office, but it will enhance oversight and accountability. Madam Speaker, let me conclude by urging the House and the majority leader that let's go back to the spirit of 2014-2015, when him and I joined Parliament. We came in, we found the Senate was united in purpose. We were not united by politics of Wamunyoro or politics of those other divisions that we talk about. We were united in the purpose of defending and strengthening these institutions. And I do hope that those of us who are going to county governments like Professor Gienda will leave this Senate stronger and not leave it weaker. And we cannot be the Senate that says that whatever happens in the National Assembly shall by extension happen to the Senate. We are a bicameral system. We must defend and protect the interest of the Senate. And Madam Speaker, in my community, there's a story about the monkey. At creation, the monkey was not given a tail. And when the monkey went around, he saw other animals had tails. He looked at the cow had a tail. He looked at the cat had a tail. He looked at other animals, they all had tails. So the monkey demanded, Almighty God, please give me a tail. So the story has it that the monkey was given a tail, but he was given the longest tail of all of them. We might want to be the majority, but I will sympathize with Senator Madzayo. If we'll be the majority leader, we'll be coming here to explain the Social Health Authority and its efficiencies and inefficiencies. If he'll be the majority leader, we'll be coming here to explain the housing levy. Or if he'll be the majority leader, we'll be coming here to explain the CBC. That is why we say the monkey asked for a tail, but was given a very long tail. Let's be careful what we ask for. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the motion.
Thank you, Senator Kajwang. Senator Madago, you're next. Let's be mindful of the time so that we can also
thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Professor,
I'll be very brief. First is to say that I support the motion and the list that has been put before the House. Honorable Speaker, I support the team and also wish to congratulate the team that was earlier here for guiding the House and making sure the business of the Senate was able to continue. Honorable Speaker, Through that SPC, as a Senate Health Committee, Honorable Speaker, our bills were fast-tracked, and we were able to pass bills that has enabled the rollout of UHC. Madam Speaker, on today's agenda, I would only wish to ask the new team to prioritize the bills that affect devolution, because that's our core mandate. And Honorable Speaker, also prioritize bills that originate from the Senate. Honorable Speaker, we've seen the attitude of the National Assembly towards the Senate, and I think as a Senate we have no business in prioritizing what they bring to this House if they have no regard for this House, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the proposed constitutional amendment from the National Assembly, they seek to entrench CDF into the Constitution. Madam Speaker, being the House that at the moment still enjoy the monopoly of budget-making process and determination, Madam Speaker, it would be extremely unfair for us as Senate not to prioritize a constitutional bill so that we can be participants of the budget-making process and ensure also counties get sufficient resources, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I therefore want to encourage the SPC to ensure that bills that originate from this House and bills that touch on devolution are given utmost priority. Madam Speaker, on the subject that has been introduced in this House, although not part of the agenda of this House, Madam Speaker, on the issue of majority and minority, Madam Speaker, I wish to agree with my colleague, Senator Kajwang, that as a Senate, Madam Speaker, we need to seize the moment and realign the sections of the Constitution that seems to have had omissions, Madam Speaker. We all remember the constitution-making process, Madam Speaker, that at the tail end of that process, the process was hijacked by a section of the population. And that is why today, Madam Speaker, without, I know you are an advocate of the High Court and of this Republic, LSK is all over in all the boards and all the places that were necessary to put themselves in the Constitution. I have nothing against LSK, but if you look at the dominance they have in the Constitution and in the positions that are given in the Constitution, it tells you that it looks like some sections of the population were also thinking of the interest, and the interest of counties and devolution and the Senate probably was forgotten in the process. But we have an opportunity through Senator Omogeni's constitutional amendment bill to rectify that and make it work. Madam Speaker, I also agree with my colleague Senator Kajwang that Senate cannot go by the decisions of the National Assembly. We are an upper house, for heaven's sake. It is only the National Assembly that can follow the decisions of the Senate, but not the vice versa. I therefore don't agree with that line of thinking, but I support the motion and the list that has been submitted. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Professor Tom Ojenda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This session of Parliament, Madam Speaker, I hope is reflective of diversity in representation and a true reflection of the broad-based government as we have it right now. I can see, Madam Speaker, that this afternoon we have Senator Kajwang, our former minority leader, Madzayo, sitting on the majority side. I have other senators sitting on this side. I had Senator Cherargei sitting on the side of the minority. It's a true reflection that we are one house, and in exercising our mandate under Article 96 of the Constitution, we will oversight government, and the role belongs both to the majority and the minority. Madam Speaker, I support the motion tabled for the House Business Committee and the composition of the committee, because it reflects a diversity of experience, a diversity that will go into leading this House into the next phase. May I, Madam Speaker, take the opportunity to repeat the wise words that have been shared in this House by the Senator, former Senator Kajwang, on the need to prioritize to prioritize the constitutional amendment or the proposed amendment that addresses Article 109 of the Constitution, Article 111, 113, and that speaks to the role of Senate in legislation. Madam Speaker, Senate cannot, in defining law or laws that touch on counties, exclude any law, because every law that emanates from the National Assembly touches on counties. And therefore, of necessity and legally, every law should be subjected to Senate. Every enactment from the National Assembly should pass through Senate. This afternoon, we saw a lot of action in the National Assembly, and that's what I call legislative diversity. I call it a bit of jostling here and there, minorities sitting in the seats of the majority, and vice versa, pursuant to a decision of the High Court, a judge bench decision. I believe that in terms of the standing orders, that decision is still subject to appeal, and the lawyers should take up their role in dealing with those issues. And I hope the National Assembly will settle the question of who is minority and who is majority. That is not a question, however, not for Senate, because we are not part of that litigation. Madam Speaker, let me also say that the House Business Committee has a role to exhaust the business of this House that was not concluded in the last session. And that is of importance, Madam Speaker, because we must focus on bills that touch on our counties. There are regulations that touch on the agricultural sector, the sugar sector especially, Madam Speaker. We have a new sugar board that has been created, and there are regulations that must be prioritized by the Committee on Delegated Legislation. The Committee on Agriculture has business with the rice bill that was commenced or initiated in the last Senate. We have a lot of oversight to undertake, Madam Speaker, on counties and on spending in counties. The Devolution Committee, Madam Speaker, must look at afresh issues concerning the management of counties, and especially the conflicts that we have seen between governors and deputy governors. We are not happy to always undertake impeachments. I think so, I believe. But we don't mind handling impeachments of governors or deputy governors if they find themselves in this House. But we encourage governors and deputy governors to sort out their mess out there in the counties, so that we do not have questions that can be settled by governors in their counties find their way to this House. Madam Speaker, we are alive, Madam Speaker, to the fact that all the committees of this House, especially the committee where I served in the last Senate, the Committee on Public Investment and the Public Accounts Committee, dealing with questions of expenditure, looking at the reports of the Auditor General on how counties spend funds. Madam Speaker, in my own county, Kisumu County, we are happy to report that we have received funds, disbursements of over Kenya shillings 12 billion, and we hope that our Governor, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, and his team will spend these funds towards the projects that are budgeted for, and to ensure, Madam Speaker, that we empower our people and we focus on projects that will enhance the lives of youth, the lives of women, the lives of the ordinary person, border riders, ensure that our markets are working, ensure that our street lighting is well done in all the towns, not just Kisumu City, but also other towns like Kombewa, Katito, Miwani, Muhoroni, and to say, Madam Speaker, that a county must embrace development that touches every small person, every person out there. That we also ensure, Madam Speaker, that all sectors, including the agriculture sector, that touch on extension services, that all sectors, Madam Speaker, including health, that our people get what they need in health, so that the rollout of SHA, the Social Health Act, and SHIF work for our people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I support this committee to the extent that it shall define the work of Senate. But Madam Speaker, lastly, let me say this, that it is important that we strengthen devolution. It is important that the CS Finance disburses funds in time. It is important, Madam Speaker, that our governors use the funds dispersed to the 47 counties in a manner that is befitting, in a manner that invites less audit queries. It is important, Madam Speaker, that our governors and those out there ensure that the problem of pending bills is sorted out so that we do not have every time to come to Senate and have those service providers cry out to us every season that they are not paid. Madam Speaker, we must ensure that we prioritize those who delivered services and ensured that our counties worked so that we do not have pending bills accumulate interest over time. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you, Professor. Senator Ogola Beatrice Akinyi.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion brought about by the Majority Leader, Senator Aaron, to the floor. Madam Speaker, it is a priority to us as we begin the session because we'd like priorities to be set. And I support the names of the senators that have been brought up because, Madam Speaker, they are outstanding senators. We believe in them in setting the priority of the Senate. Madam Speaker, I wanted to be done with this support early enough so that I leave early enough for Addis Ababa. Madam Speaker, you all know that we have an outstanding candidate in Ethiopia in the following days, and a number of us should have left. Yesterday I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I told them that I was either going to leave by bus or on foot or fly to Addis Ababa because that is a path that we have followed all these years. Madam Speaker, the reason why I support this motion is that there are serious issues that we should be attending to as a Senate. Madam Speaker, you have seen in the news all over in this country the increasing numbers of issues of femicide. And those are top priority issues that we should be discussing as a House, if not as leaders, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just the last few months, we have lost young ladies, young girls in my community, if not as reflected in the numbers that we are reading about in this country. Just the other week, we lost a young lady called Mercy in the middle of town, in Dewa town, Madam Speaker. And just the other week, we equally lost a girl that was just found, the body, the lady had been murdered and the body dumped in a sugarcane plantation. We appreciate, Madam Speaker, that His Excellency the President is also leading a similar campaign, and which we are looking forward to beginning to also energize as women MPs all over. So those are issues that really make me support this motion because we are looking forward to bringing such issues on the floor. Madam Speaker, if it is not issues of femicide, just the other day we got a patient had been murdered in an institution in Kenyatta National Hospital. And that is not the first time. These are issues we are looking forward to be discussed, Madam Speaker. There are also issues that we have been keen on as leaders in this country, if not limited to mysterious disappearances and deaths or abductions, as we call them, Madam Speaker. And so we need the House Business Committee, like yesterday, to set the priorities that we are looking forward to discussing. And just as my colleagues have said, the issue of pending bills in counties. Madam Speaker, when devolution came in, we all appreciated, and there was life, economic life in our counties. We saw even border traders grow to be more outstanding business people because they had done a lot of business with the counties and there was money flowing. But of late, Madam Speaker, with the pending bills just piling up, we do not see that vibrancy in the counties. Madam Speaker, as we talk about the just common topic that has been talked about here, the issue of majority versus minority, Madam Speaker, I'm thinking like any other Kenyan that as we struggle about who sits where, does this sitting reflect on the services that we give to our people in the counties? Madam Speaker, top of my agenda is the issue of even IBC, that as the panel is sitting down to get us new commissioners, I'm looking forward to the establishment of this commission so that outstanding issues of boundaries, including in my county, can be sorted out, Madam Speaker. In my county, we are looking forward to Ndewa constituency getting their boundary reviewed because it's a very expansive constituency, and we are looking forward to getting 2 constituencies, if not 3 out of that. Other than that, there's a Karachuonyo constituency, we have the Bondo constituency, the Lego Usonga constituency, the Kisumu Central constituency in my region, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, all I'm saying is that there are outstanding issues which, as a House, we should be paying attention to more than some of the issues that we've just heard this afternoon. And so, Madam Speaker, as I support this motion, I would like the proposed committee we are setting to set priorities that will tackle the issues that Kenyans are looking forward to. Madam Speaker, I support the motion.
Thank you. The final person, the final senator to speak is Senator Joe Nyoto for, Senator Abbas, sorry. Just hold Senator Joe. Senator Abbas was here for a long time. Senator Abbas, can you make it very short? He had spoken. Oh, Senator Abbas, I am informed by the clerk that you spoke. Clerk, can you confirm? Was he on a point of information? Okay, can you make it very short then? Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I think I'll be very short. Honorable Speaker, first and foremost, I want to support the motion. And that what I want to say is the new team should be able to manage the calendar of this House. The agendas of this House has been very long most of the times. That we're omitting so many important bills instead of having so many statements, repetitive statements. I think this time, as the first session, I will ask the members that have been selected for the House business must be able to select and at least give priority to the important bills that this House has taken too long for it. Madam Speaker, besides having said that I've supported the motion, I want to take this opportunity to go also, Madam Speaker, to thank His Excellency the President. When he visited Northern Kenya, actually, he made a very, very important to the lives, recommendation to the lives of the people in Northern Kenya. Honorable Speaker, the Northern Kenyan people have suffered many years because of not being able to access identity cards and any other birth certificates and all these things. It was the most unfortunate thing that the measures that were put in place by previous regimes were so punitive, discriminative, that really isolated the Northern Kenyan people from the rest of Kenyans. Many young men and women could not even access their IDs. They could not access birth certificates for their kids. And some of the students could not even go to school or even do the exams because of the punitive measures that were put in place. Therefore, I want to send my heartfelt thanks to the President that what he has done is actually something that you can never forget. But unfortunately, having said that, I'm actually surprised. Some of leaders, very senior leaders in this country, party leaders, were panicking, calling, that this is going to bring Al-Shabaab, this is going to open up so many things, that the country is going, the government wants to use the Somali IDs and Somali legislation to, honestly, to, allow foreigners to come in to vote. That should not be the case. We are not that petty. The Somalis are there since the inception of this independence of this country. Actually, the Somalis took part in Mau Mau. They were even sending their animals to feed the Mau Maus. If you want, I'll give you all cuttings. Even our animals were sold because of supporting Mau Mau. Actually, in 1952, our animals were taken and sold, all of them, they auctioned. So I don't know how soon that the Somalis have now become people who were dangerous in this country. Issues to do with terrorism. Terrorism is an international issue, Your Honourable Speaker. Therefore, I want to appeal to all Kenyans that this country needs to move together, that this country needs to accommodate one another so that we can have a cohesive country. With those few remarks, I want to say again, thank you so much, Your Excellency the President, and we applaud you for the good work you have done for removing those discriminative things and any other things. Even the census of Northern Kenya was reduced by 40%. The 2009 census and the 2019, the 2009 was even more. They reduced the figures by 40%. That kind of business is going not to happen, help any Kenyans. With those few remarks, I beg to support the bill. The motion, sorry.
Senator John Nyoto, very short indeed. Let's give him the mic.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to support this motion that the members elected to join the House Business Committee be approved by this House. Madam Speaker, this could not have come at a better time because, as we all know, we will, in this House, be discussing and coming up with the fourth basis of sharing revenue between the amongst the counties, Madam Speaker. And so I would want to say that as this committee comes in place, then that priority should actually be made. And like my many other colleagues have submitted, Madam Speaker, we would want this committee to prioritize matters that favor the Senate and that have a direct bearing to the Senate, Madam Speaker. And in doing so, let them see to it that anything that the National Assembly wants from us, of course, that there is horse trading between us and the National Assembly, and the business approved by this particular committee will be business that will be in tandem with the interests of the Senate and of the people of Kenya. Madam Speaker, speaking very briefly about the matter that has arisen in this House regarding who is the majority and who is a minority in this House, Madam Speaker, I think we should respect the court's decision. But even as I say that, Madam Speaker, I think we need to relook at the whole leadership in this House. And why do I say that? I say that because, Madam Speaker, Kenya Kwanza is currently working with ODM and looking at the leadership in the minority side. Madam Speaker, the majority leader, the minority whip, the deputy minority whip are all members of ODM, which is working with Kenya Kwanza. And so, Madam Speaker, I think I would want to say that I would want to submit to this House that we should look at leadership once again, look at the numbers that Kenya Kwanza has, joined with ODM, which is already working with the Kenya Kwanza, and then, Madam Speaker, the rest that are not in that particular coalition should form the new minority, Madam Speaker. And I think although there has been argument that the court's decision did not relate to the Senate, but I think it's only fair that we relook at the leadership status in this House because, of course, there has been very many shifts. Madam Speaker, I submit and I support the formation of this particular business committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I wanted to call the majority leader respond. And before I do that, before I call the majority leader, maybe to give a guidance on the important question that has been raised, and that has ridden together with this debate on the House Business Committee, the Senate Business Committee. It would be remiss of the Speaker to ignore the serious interest that has been shown on the question of who holds the majority or who holds the minority within the Senate, especially in relation to the judgment or the finding that has been made in respect of the petition, which senators have been contributing to, relating to the National Assembly, and an order that has been issued by court directed to the Speaker, Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly. It will therefore be in good order that the Speaker gives a direction on that issue. So I will append that direction of the Speaker to the next sitting to give a direction on the position of the Speaker in relation to who holds the majority or who holds the minority in relation to the Senate. And having given that direction, I now invite the mover of the motion, Majority Leader, to
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, rather, sorry, my apologies. I really want to appreciate colleagues who've taken time to speak on this matter. Under normal circumstances, this is not a motion, actually, that we normally debate. In fact, in the history of, I think, this House, as far as I can recall, we've always dispensed such motions within 10 or 20 minutes. But I think members had missed the microphone and the cameras, Madam Speaker, and therefore it was only fair that we allow people to say something. And members have spoken on many things, but I want to appreciate their contribution, actually, of every member that has spoken, because apart from the debates that we've had on majority and minority, something which doesn't arise, one of the reasons why I never contested members raising it, Madam Speaker, is because I know that here in the Senate, the question of majority and minority doesn't arise, because it's as plain as can be, Madam Speaker, that even a plain census on which party, without including the disputed political parties of UDM, for example, who holds the majority. UDA on its own, together with Ford Kenya and DP, have 24 senators, which settles that conversation. But be that as it may, Madam Speaker, I felt that it would not be appropriate for me to interrupt for people to express their opinion on this matter, because that's what democracy is about. And opinion can never be limited, Madam Speaker. The only point at which I felt like rising, Madam Speaker, is when a colleague referred us to standing Article 108 of our Constitution, something which is akin, Madam Speaker, to a taboo subject to those who understand the operation of this House. If there is a clause of the Constitution that has been used to disparage this House, Madam Speaker, in the counterpart House, it is that Article 108. And it broke my heart that one of the leaders today actually agreed with their position and insisted that this House is subservient to the decisions of the National Assembly, that when they make a decision, we are supposed to follow suit without question. I will, Madam Speaker, I allowed it to slide because I believed that with the wisdom of time and age, that member will come to appreciate the importance of the independence of this House and the reason why our decisions remain to be final and cannot be challenged or debated in the subsequent House, Madam Speaker. You know for a fact, as Senator Moses Kajwang alluded to, that this Constitution has been found to be inconsistent in terms of its use of the term National Assembly and Parliament. That is why you find, for example, Madam Speaker, that there are state officers that we actually vet alongside National Assembly, like the Inspector General of Police, Governor of Central Bank, and others that were left out, Madam Speaker, which points out to very glaring errors, that it was actually not, it might be in letter, but not in the spirit of the Constitution, of how Parliament and National Assembly has been used interchangeably, Madam Speaker. Perhaps it was the works of an over-enthusiastic draftsman, Madam Speaker, or somebody cheekily actually did that to spite this House, Madam Speaker. And we cannot be the ones that agree to that kind of error and say that a House of equal importance in a bicameral legislation, Madam Speaker, can take leadership from the other House. I don't agree with that, Madam Speaker. But the rest of the things that have been said is what makes this House a house of debate. It's good, and it was nice, Madam Speaker, to see members debate and engage on issues. I appreciate that, whether pro or against, Madam Speaker. You know, the work of opposition is not easy. Sometimes you have to come and do certain things just for the cameras. I did that for the last 5 years, in the last time of Parliament, Madam Speaker, and we were used to it. Then Senator Maruma will frown at me because you were saying you are delaying government business. Government business must continue. Today, things change, and in future you never know what will happen, because that's the essence of politics, Madam Speaker. But I want to appreciate that further down the line, many members have agreed with us that we need to prioritize a lot of business that is before this House, Madam Speaker. The state of use of resources, Madam Speaker, in our counties is something that will trouble every senator. That we have to wait for some dubious institutions such as, I don't know, Infotrack, and I don't know which one, Wekeza, and I don't know, some funny institutions that have no history of doing professional work that can be judged by the truth of time to establish whether their work is professional otherwise, to give us the ranking of the performance of governors and county governments, Madam Speaker, is, Madam Speaker, the religion of duty on the part of Senate, Madam Speaker. This House, Madam Speaker, must come up with mechanisms upon which the template and the tools, Madam Speaker, for measuring performance of a county government, Madam Speaker. We cannot continue to sit here as intellectuals, you know, and just be happy to see people post. And you know how many of these findings are procured, Madam Speaker, that if you pay, then you can be ranked to be on top. You don't need to be a genius to know the performance. If, for example, Governor George Natembeya was performing as well as that opinion poll wants to show us, Madam Speaker, then he'd be making news, Madam Speaker, for the things that he's doing in Trans Nzoia and not for the insults that he is spewing. I have a particular problem, Madam Speaker, with leaders and governors who are known more for their political jabs more than their performance at county level. And in that I include even respected leaders like Senior Counsel James Orengo, Madam Speaker. If as a county governor, the only thing that people read about you is what you have said about what is happening nationally, but nothing about industries in your county, how you have increased on-source revenue, Madam Speaker, then there is a problem in your county. Madam Speaker, this House needs to legislate this time ways and means of measuring performance in county government. And those tools are there. There are things that we can check. How have you as a governor increased on-source revenue from the time that you came in? How have you reduced deficit, Madam Speaker, in terms of fiscal expenditure between recurrent expenditure and what you spend in development, Madam Speaker? What is your corruption index? How have you reduced pending bills? Are you accruing more or less? Surely, Senator Heidi, are those difficult things that you at Budget and Finance Committee cannot lead this House into establishing those things, so that we have to resign to some dubious institutions to tell us how county governments are performing? As a House, Madam Speaker, we must do better, Madam Speaker. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I agree that we have very serious legislative work ahead of us this time. Therefore, I want to plead with colleagues that let us conclude on this business, determine the House Business Committee. They get down to work immediately, despite the fact that it is 5:58. Upon the voting of this motion, Madam Speaker, I am sure we shall retire to room 5 to determine the business for tomorrow, because we must fold up our sleeves and do justice to devolution, Madam Speaker. With those very many remarks, I beg to reply and urge the House to support this list. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Majority. Thank you, Majority Leader, for that very passionate response and reply to the motion that is on the floor of this House. I want to request Sergeant at Arms to ring the division bell for 3 minutes. For 3 minutes. Sergeant at Arms, Division Bell, for 3 minutes. Honorable Senators, the House is now quorate, so I will proceed on. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 84-1, I hereby make a determination that this matter does not affect counties, and I now put the question that pursuant to standing orders, you can take your seats, Honorable Senators. Honorable Senators, I put the question that pursuant to Standing Orders 190 and 199.3, the Senate approves the following senators nominated to serve in the Senate Business Committee for the